Just yesterday, new data emerged revealing that over the past few days, Kamchatka experienced an additional 29 underground tremors. Some of these quakes reached nearly 6 on the Richter scale, indicating quite significant seismic activity. By July 30th alone, hundreds of aftershocks had been recorded, and experts warn this is only the beginning. Recently, the results of a confidential report from the Institute of Earth Physics at the Russian Academy of Sciences became known. Their findings, based on detailed analysis of Kamchatka's seismic data, challenge existing forecasts and demand a reassessment of the region's seismic risks. Alarmingly, 7 dormant volcanoes have awakened simultaneously, including Karyshinnikov, which had been silent for 6 centuries. Meanwhile, sirens of tsunamis sounded across 20 nations, prompting millions to evacuate coastal areas. What puzzles scientists most is that the earthquake epicenter on July 30th, 2025, coincided precisely with the site of a major quake in 1952. According to all models, such an overlap is impossible, as the energy required for such an event should have accumulated over at least another 50 years. The sudden release of this energy remains unexplained, raising questions about the region's seismic dynamics. For decades, the global scientific community largely ignored Kamchatka, viewing it as a remote and exotic corner of Russia. Yes, occasional tremors and volcanic eruptions occurred, but they seemed distant and insignificant compared to more active zones like California, Japan, or Southeast Asia. Consequently, Kamchatka remained in the shadow, considered a secondary geological province. However, those who studied the region more closely knew the truth. Beneath the waters off Kamchatka's coast, tectonic plates are colliding with immense force. The Pacific Plate is subducting beneath the North American Plate, a process that has been ongoing for millions of years. Tension steadily builds as these plates grind against each other, like a colossal spring coiling tighter with each passing year. This process is relentless. The plates will continue to move and stress will keep accumulating. Sooner or later, the Earth will rupture, unleashing a powerful quake. The only uncertainties are when and how severe it will be. Kamchatka's history offers stark evidence of nature's destructive potential. In 1952, the region was struck by an earthquake nearly 9 on the Richter scale, triggering a tsunami that reached heights of 18 meters. These waves obliterated northern coastal towns like Goryachynsk, claiming over 2,000 lives. Yet, despite such catastrophic events, the region's seismic activity has long been overlooked by the global scientific community, considered a distant and less significant zone. Today, new findings suggest that Kamchatka's seismic situation is far more critical than previously believed. The recent surge in activity, the simultaneous awakening of dormant volcanoes, and the precise coincidence with past major earthquakes all point to an urgent need for renewed attention. The region's tectonic forces are quietly but inexorably building toward another potentially devastating event, demanding that scientists and authorities rethink their assumptions and prepare accordingly. In recent years, a series of unsettling changes have begun to unfold across the planet. Seismologists have been sounding alarms about unusual signs, minor earthquakes becoming more frequent, volcanoes showing increased activity, and entire regions exhibiting abnormal underground behavior. It's as if the Earth itself was trying to communicate something, yet no one was paying attention. Then, on the 30th of July, 2025, Kamchatka finally spoke. The event that day would be etched into history as the 6th recorded earthquake since modern monitoring began. Its magnitude reached an astonishing 8.8, comparable to the explosion of 1,000 hydrogen bombs. But what was truly terrifying wasn't just the numbers, it was what was happening beneath the surface. Scientists later determined that the Earth's crust had ruptured in the Ovechensky Gulf near Petropavlovsk-Kamchatsky, and the fracture extended an incredible 600 kilometers southward, reaching the Kuril Islands. Many assume earthquakes are isolated incidents. Once the tremors subside, life resumes. However, reality proved far more brutal. Almost immediately after the main quake, aftershocks began. Initially, they occurred 5 to 10 times daily, then dozens. By the end of August, 84 aftershocks had been recorded in just 1 week. By September, the count had risen into the hundreds. At the time of this writing, official reports confirm over 600 aftershocks. The deputy director of the Earth Physics Institute expressed genuine concern. An 8.8 magnitude quake is extraordinary, and he warned that aftershocks could continue for up to a year. While he hoped nothing as powerful would follow, his hopes might be misplaced. Some aftershocks have already reached magnitude 6, which is enough to qualify as independent earthquakes. On September 4th alone, 29 tremors ranging from 3 to 6 points struck within 24 hours. Most residents didn't feel them, as humans typically only perceive earthquakes above 4. Yet, instruments detected every movement of the Earth's crust, painting a disturbing picture. Seismic activity was not diminishing, but in some days even intensifying. Scientists warn that aftershocks could persist at magnitudes up to 7.5 for several more months. Such powerful tremors can demolish even buildings designed to withstand earthquakes. As a result, Kamchatka's inhabitants live on a knife's edge, constantly at risk of another violent jolt forcing them to evacuate their homes once again. But aftershocks are not the worst threat. Geologists have observed a troubling trend. Over the past 25 years, the frequency of mega earthquakes in this region has surged dramatically. While the 19th and 20th centuries saw roughly 10 such catastrophes, the 21st has already recorded 6 or 7, only counting those on land or well documented by instruments. What truly alarms experts is that the earthquake activity appears to be escalating toward a final catastrophic event. The initial 40 seconds of the recent quake were relatively calm, with tectonic plates shifting only 3 to 4 meters. Then suddenly, something changed. The speed of displacement sharply increased, and within just 2 minutes, the amplitude of the quake reached an astonishing 10 to 15 meters. This pattern suggests that the Earth was gathering strength for a final devastating blow, an apocalyptic release of energy that could reshape the region and threaten global stability. This event involved massive sections of the ocean floor, shifting laterally by an amount comparable to the height of a 5-story building, all within seconds. Dr. Andrei Karyshinnikov, a geologist with a doctorate in mineral sciences, cannot hide his intense emotions. He rightly describes this as a catastrophe of the 21st century, one of the rarest seismic events in recorded history. Such occurrences are practically unprecedented, happening only once or twice in a century. The epicenter of this earthquake coincided with the site of the catastrophic event of 1952. Remarkably, the same location became the focal point of 2 colossal earthquakes, separated by more than half a century. This perplexes scientists because calculations suggest that it should take at least 120 to 140 years for enough energy to accumulate for such a release. Yet only about 7 or 8 years have passed between these events. The question arises, where did the additional energy come from to trigger this new disaster? Some geologists speculate that beneath the Kamchatka Peninsula, processes are unfolding that current science does not fully understand. Perhaps the mechanisms responsible for building up tectonic stress here operate under unique conditions. Despite the immense power involved, most buildings remarkably withstood the quake, a testament to modern engineering's resilience. After the 1952 event, seismic reinforcement systems were implemented across Kamchatka, enabling structures to endure such extraordinary forces. Although cracks appeared everywhere, the main buildings remained standing, and lives were saved. Nature, however, had one more surprise in store. Data analysis revealed that during the first minute, energy release reached only about 80 billion joules per second, a figure typical for earthquakes of magnitude 75 to 78. Subsequently, the energy output increased 2.5 times. The scientist believes the Earth was seemingly preparing for a major blow, with a series of preliminary tremors beginning as early as July 20th of that year. Another alarming detail emerged. The earthquake involved the rupture of 3 tectonic faults simultaneously. Usually, only one fault breaks during such events, but here, nature orchestrated a triple strike. A geologist describes this type of focus as truly unique, and such cases are exceedingly rare in geological history. The consequences were immediate and dramatic. The southern part of the Kamchatka Peninsula shifted nearly 2 meters southeastward and sank several centimeters. For most people, these are just numbers, but geologists understand that such large-scale shifts occur only once every few centuries. However, the earthquake was only the beginning. What followed caused tremors across the entire Pacific Ocean. When vast sections of the seabed suddenly move tens of meters, the ocean does not remain passive. The displacement imparts an enormous impulse to billions of tons of water, setting off a rapid movement that quickly transforms into a tsunami. On July 30th, 2025, the Pacific became the stage for one of the most significant tsunami warnings in modern history. Across dozens of countries, Japan, the United States, Mexico, Chile, Peru, Indonesia, and Ecuador, panic ensued. Tsunami warning centers operated in emergency mode, with computer models predicting waves reaching heights of 10 to 15 meters, capable of striking coastlines within hours. The scale and speed of this natural disaster left a profound impact on the entire region. Considering the magnitude of the earthquake, the scenario could have resembled the devastating events in the Indian Ocean in 2004 or off the coast of Japan in 2011. Yet, nature once again delivered an unexpected twist. The tsunamis that reached distant shores were significantly smaller than predicted. In California, the waves did not exceed half a meter in height, and in Japan the damage was minimal. Even Tokyo Electric Power, which had panicked and halted the release of treated water from the damaged Fukushima plant, resumed operations the following day. Closer to the epicenter, however, the situation was markedly different. The northern Kuril Islands, a city that had been completely erased from maps in the 1950s and rebuilt, once again faced threat. As soon as initial data confirmed the earthquake, authorities announced a week-long evacuation. The waves arrived, but this time they were only about 4 to 5 meters tall. The port infrastructure suffered damage, and several industrial facilities were affected, yet the city remained intact. The natural harbor of Avachinskaya Bay played a crucial role, acting as a shield. The tsunami entered the bay but broke upon the entrance, dispersing much of its energy due to the complex shoreline. Scientists later remarked that the region had been fortunate. Comparisons with other major disasters are inevitable. The 2011 Tohoku earthquake in Japan, with a magnitude of 9.0, was slightly stronger than the one near Kamchatka, yet the rupture zone spanned about 500 kilometers compared to 600 in the Russian Far East. The 2023 Turkish earthquake, which claimed 57,000 lives, had a magnitude of only 7.8. Remarkably, in Russia, the Kamchatka earthquake with a magnitude of 8.8 resulted in no fatalities. Nonetheless, scientists classify this event as planetary in scale. Seismic waves circled the globe multiple times, and sensitive instruments detected oscillations even in Europe. The Earth seemed to ring like a bell, reverberating for days after the initial tremor. Legendary stories among the indigenous peoples of Kamchatka speak of spirits of fiery mountains awakening during intense quakes. Today, these ancient legends have gained a frightening reality. The earthquake triggered not just one or two, but 7 volcanoes erupting simultaneously. The long-standing debate over the link between earthquakes and volcanic activity was finally substantiated in the 80s by Soviet scientist Vladimir Shirokov, who, based on extensive data, proved that powerful subterranean shocks can induce series of eruptions. The mechanism is straightforward. Seismic activity increases pressure on magma chambers, causing molten rock to ascend and erupt. The last similar event on Kamchatka occurred in 1737, when a magnitude 9 earthquake triggered simultaneous eruptions of 4 volcanoes. Nearly 3 centuries later, history repeated itself, but with even more volcanoes involved. Currently, the region exhibits an unprecedented level of seismic activity, with scientists recording 6 volcanoes erupting simultaneously. Among them, the most alarming behavior is observed at the Kambolnaya Sopka volcano, which remains particularly restless and unpredictable. Deep within a volcano, a phenomenon known as volcanic tremor occurs, characterized by the continuous movement of magma rising through the conduit, causing persistent seismic vibrations. This process resembles a boiling kettle. Initially, a faint rumble appears, gradually intensifies, and eventually culminates in a powerful eruption. An eruption at the Kamchatka volcanoes can happen unexpectedly, within a week, a month, or sometimes the activity may suddenly subside, leaving the volcano dormant until the next event. Kamchatka hosts 28 active volcanoes, more than any other region of comparable size worldwide. These fiery giants are closely packed, their slopes often glowing with molten lava, and many of them are simultaneously active, creating a landscape of relentless volcanic energy. The most alarming aspect is that such activity can persist for months, with seismic and magmatic processes ongoing beneath the surface. Powerful earthquakes often trigger volcanic unrest, and the subsequent magmatic ascent keeps pressure high within the chambers, meaning eruptions could occur at any moment. Leading scientist Andrei Kornikhov has proposed a disturbing hypothesis. The Earth's crust could hold an enormous amount of carbon dioxide, far exceeding the total in the atmosphere. If magma interacts with these carbon-rich layers, it could lead to massive CO2 emissions through eruptions, intensifying the greenhouse effect. He warns of a potential feedback loop. Tectonic movements activate volcanic activity, which releases more carbon dioxide, further accelerating tectonic processes. In the worst-case scenario, this cycle might spiral out of control, transforming the planet into a hellish environment with temperatures soaring by 100 degrees Celsius, rendering life impossible. While such ideas sound like science fiction, the Earth indeed contains vast quantities of trapped CO2, making these fears not entirely unfounded. For now, scientists continue to study and monitor, but accurately predicting when and where the next major earthquake or eruption will strike remains an immense challenge. The winter of volcanic unrest remains one of Earth's greatest mysteries, reminding us of the planet's unpredictable and dynamic nature.